Welcome into Pioneer Basketball with Devin Carter. The Tusculum Pioneers, fairly successful week when you don't look at the wins and losses, but when you look at the level of competition that this team played and competed, had a chance to win each and every game. As always, joined by Pioneer coach Devin Carter. We're going to get 3 games in because we had this crazy off game, and then we rescheduled the game with Wingate, which was just the other night as we record this. Still a little bit hoarse from the yelling on a Monday night. Let's go all the way back to Wednesday and just give me a synopsis of the week, because I think overall Carson Newman, Lenore Ryan, Wingate posed totally different challenges, but 2 of those 3 were the top 2 teams in our league, and I felt like we had a very good showing for the week against that level of competition.
Yeah, you're playing Carson Newman. Obviously, they present a different matchup than the other 2 teams because they press you, they get after you, and then they score the basketball so well. So we had to make sure that, we valued each possession. I thought we played hard. We had some runs in the ball game, some situations, especially in the second half, where they were forced to call some timeouts because we made some runs. But at the end of the day, when you're on the road, you gotta value the basketball and you gotta finish around the rim. And I felt like we left a lot of points on the floor by simply not finishing around the bucket and had our opportunities. When you go on the road against, I guess, the number 2 or 3 team in the country and you compete, you're proud of that. But I told our girls is that, that game could have been yours. We needed some breaks to go our way, but, Carson Newman, they were on you so much mentally that they end up breaking you down. And so, we use it as a learning experience because to get to the, places we want to go, you got to go through them. And so then we get to LR. LR, complete opposite.
Yeah.
They slow the game down. They try to get as few possessions as possible for you. They're going to zone you, and then they're going to give the ball to Maddie Sudworth and let her work. And she kicked our butt. But really proud of the resilience of the girls to come back from a deficit up 8. Then you're down 5, and then you have to find a way to, close the game out. So really impressed with that. And then Wingate, obviously felt like down the stretch, you're down 20, top 25 team in the country. You're down 20, and then you come all the way back and cut it to 1. And I thought we got our feet right to the edge, but we didn't jump. And so got to be a little bit more mentally tough down the stretch. Got to be able to execute and got to be able to not waver. Right. That's the thing that I think was a little disappointing, is that we had the effort to get back in it. We put the stops together, but the last 2 minutes of the game, we came up short at the free throw line and around the paint and with our communication, and we got to be better.
Start with the Carson Newman game and go into that one just a little bit more as we break it down. For Tusculum, a 1-2 week, I guess you look at it, but still in the upper echelon in the league as we go into the final week of the regular season, and knew this was going to be a big week and knew this was going to be a big challenge with Carson Newman. And then Michael Wester happened. And I think that is a little bit of the total difference when you take that pride in being at home. And we're going to talk about another play on their team coming up here in a moment, but the Wester factor. And I think she has that wow, and she's not afraid to take those shots. And when they go in early, it shows how good of a start they got off to, which put us behind the 8 ball very early.
For sure. She made some shots. The referee turned around and looked at me in the middle of the game and was like, "Dag," and I was like, "Dag is right." She was making turnaround, left-handed fadeaways. Just a skilled player. She forces you to guard every second of every possession, and she's such a mismatch because they're playing her at the 4 spot. Yeah. And in our league, you don't have a lot of versatile 4s. We have Casey Johnson, who's a versatile 4, but other than that. You look at Casey, you look at Michael Wester, that's why those girls are such an anomaly in the league, because a lot of teams don't have that, and they can't match up with her. The thing with Michael Wester is I believe she was All-American last year. She's better now than she was last year. Yeah. And I told our assistant she's a lot better. So that's a testament to her. And I told our girls, moving forward, our standard has to be of that. We have to have kids that are willing to come into work and are willing to get better each and every day, because you're not going against, some of these lower echelon teams. That's not your competition anymore. Your competition is Wingate. Your competition is Carson Newman. and they have them, and we have to get them.
Yeah.
And so, definitely she made a difference in that game. And to me, Harris Price was in foul trouble a little bit and didn't play as much, but Michael Wester was the deciding factor in that ball game. Huge ball game from her.
Then, when we make the run, kind of get back into it a little bit, we're feeling good about ourselves, then there's the Harris Price factor. And
Yeah.
I think, the quote is accurate, what you said. If there's a better point guard in the country at Division II, I'd like to see her.
Absolutely.
I think we saw her at Hope Fieldhouse on Wednesday.
For sure. Like you said, we make the run to get back into the ball game, and then all of a sudden she rings up 4 on you just like that. Extremely fast, extremely quick, can shoot the basketball. She's another one who's gotten drastically better. Last year she wasn't that.
Right.
She was good, but right now she's really good. She's the best point guard we played against all year. Can shoot the basketball, put so much pressure on you in transition. And I felt like that when we cut it close, when we crawled back into the ball game, the spurt that she rolled off by herself was huge, and because it was so quick.
Right.
And it's tough to respond from that. So, Mia Long and her are the 2 fastest point guards in the league for sure.
Yeah.
I thought both of them put on a show because they're both so athletic and so fast and fun to watch. And so obviously I think we have everybody coming back, and so do they. So they're gonna be a problem again, and we got to find a way to get over the hump because you have spurts, you have glimpses, and last year was the first year that group being together.
Yeah.
This year is the first year of us being together, and so hopefully we can make that same jump in year 2, like they did.
What Carson Newman has done, obviously, with the win against Tusculum, that was their 11th 100-point game of the season. Historically, for Carson Newman, they had 10 100-point games in the history of their South Atlantic Conference tenure. 1989, 11 this year. So obviously a team that has made that improvement from one year to the next. Saturday, as we take a look at some of these highlights now with the LR Bears, a game that you talked to and alluded. Cameron Seeley's come in. She's a former LR Bear. She's kind of adopted the style that they played when she was there a little bit, and that was take timely threes, not a whole bunch, but really just pound you and try to be more physical than you and have a physical finisher. Sudworth was the Conference Player of the Week coming into this week for a reason. We saw why.
Yeah.
A very good player. We got off to the type of start I think we needed to, but they were able to battle themselves back into it as well.
Yeah, we got off to a great start. I felt like the girls came out locked in defensively at the start. We wanted to get the game up and down, and so we were able to get the game moving pretty quickly early on. And then obviously they slowed the game down a little bit, and we started taking a lot of threes. That can't be what we do. That's not who we are. And they played the zone the entire game. I told the girls that teams are going to do that to us. Until we prove that we can knock down that shot consistently, teams are going to do that to us. And I felt like we settled for a lot early from the three-point line, and I felt like even when we got the ball inside, we were fading a little bit. And so we put ourselves behind the 8 ball. I think it was tied at the half.
Yeah.
After being up 8, we normally do a great job of taking an 8-point lead and turning it into 15 and stuff like that. But, credit to LR. Coach Seeley's doing a great job. They're defending at a high rate. They make life difficult for you. They force you to be patient. They force you to be fundamental. They force you to ball fake and do those things that kids hate doing. And, they tied it up at the half and then took the lead in the third quarter. I thought the big difference in the ball game was eventually we were able to get the game moving again. And when we were able to get the game moving again, we were able to get in transition and finishes at the rim. The play that stands out in my mind is Mia's over-the-top pass to Yo-Yo in transition. Yo-Yo got to the rim and finished it, and then we were able to kind of roll from there. So showed a little bit of adversity. Faced a little bit of adversity and overcame that to get the win on our home floor. So I was very impressed with that.
The big thing that's frustrating for you a little bit is the fact you've got all these really good shooters and we're not making them at the line. We're going 1 and 2 at the line. So a game that we lead by 5 late, they're able to cut to one and make it very interesting. And then obviously we closed it out right there at the very end of the contest. But again, a team, I think we're still learning how to close out games. Was that a game that was just another notch in our belt, that it was a different way that we won another ball game?
Yeah, it was a different way. You kind of alluded to it, though, is that sometimes we're making things a little bit more difficult than they need to be. And, you know, you look at the newcomers on our team, we're a collection of newcomers. Some of the kids have been here, but we have probably 2, maybe 3 kids that have been here for a long time that are playing major minutes for us. So a totally different dynamic on our team, and come from different backgrounds, different situations. We have to do a better job of closing out games. I got to say, winners win, and they find a way to win. And we found a way, but it didn't have to be that tough and complicated. If you step to the line and knock down your free throws, those are things that we can control. Has nothing to do with officiating, injuries, has nothing to do with sickness or eligibility. You step to the line, you knock down your free throws, that game's probably wrapped up a little bit sooner. And I guess I'm probably going to take your next point. It came back to bite us last night. And so we have to be a little bit more focused and mentally tough, you know, because those big ball games, they come back to bite you. I tell people all the time, you know, when you step to the free throw line and your team is dependent on you, you got to be confident those are going in. And we get the reps in, we put the time in. But I think our kids got to believe a little bit more. They've accomplished a lot, but there's still another step that we have to take, and that comes with being able to close out these tight games and being able to face adversity head on and take it in the moment.
Pioneers sweep LR this season with the 2-0 record on Saturday as they got the win, and then had the showdown with the number 2 team in the conference, another top 20 team in the country in the Wingate Bulldogs. And Ann Hancock has probably heard about how great Carson Newman is and how wonderful their season has been. Her and Johnny Jackman, who the legendary coach at Wingate, probably had some of the best teams ever in the South Atlantic Conference. Let's just be, and it started with Hancock. And I think she's got a little point to prove, you know, coming in here. Big showdown this week with Carson Newman to conclude the season, which is going to be massive. And then she comes in and puts her foot on the throttle in the first half with her team and Mashinko. Totally different team than what we have seen this week in Carson Newman and LR because of the big man player, or the big as it is. And Mashinko causes so many problems for you because it can open up other people in the game. You build that big deficit, and I think what you got to be proud of the fact is that your team didn't stop, and Nia Long kept you in the game in the first half, and then Sydney Wilson shot you back in the game in the second half.
Yeah, you know, Wingate always, they make life difficult for you because they put so much pressure on the paint. Masinko, I am so glad she's a senior. Like, I am just thrilled. Her and Witherspoon, flat out, and I mean this, you know, in admiration, they're just dogs. I mean, they compete, they fight, they do whatever is necessary for their team to win. And that's why they've been so successful. We've had all these great teams in the SAC. I think the SAC is the best league on the East Coast. But they've been the staple in our league because of those 2 players. Their guards have changed. Their guards have graduated. They've brought in freshman guards. They've done all these things. But those 2 girls have been the staple. They just flat out tough you. And, you know, in that first half, they just imposed their will on us in the paint. And you know, I told our girls is that, you know, and I alluded to it earlier, the staple is not some of these other teams. You know, it's Wingate, it's Carson Newman, it's those teams. And you have to be able to compete with those teams. And I felt like Masinko got off to a great start. Witherspoon got some loose balls, some 50-50 balls, and they really set the tone on us early.
All right, we're watching these highlights for this game, and as you're looking, there's a lot of great moments. There's a lot of bad moments, you know, in that first half. But we didn't have a lot of people. We faced the adversity, getting into some foul trouble in that first half. So what was the key? What was the key that got us back into the game in the second half?
Well, I forget what the foul count was, but I just remember looking down at my bench and being like, she's got 2, she's got 2, she's got 2, she's got 3, she's got 3. And honestly, we had to do something we hadn't done all year. We had to go zone. And, we were able to get some stops out of our zone. And, Mia Long kept us in that ball game the first half, like you said, getting to the rim, and ones, pushing tempo. She was super aggressive. She opened up shots for her teammates. She's been the same aggressive Mia Long, all year. And she really kept us in it by her pace. And that's her skill. Her skill is her pace and her speed and the tempo that she allows us to play with. And so I thought the last 2 minutes of the first half were crucial because it could have bloomed to 25-30. Mm-hmm. And we were able to keep it right there at 15. And even though that's not ideal, you're still a few stops away from getting it under 10. And so because we were able to keep it at that 15 mark, we were able to, put some stops together in that third quarter to get it under 10 as we went into the fourth.
And you shot better. Obviously,
Absolutely.
that was good from the perimeter and also from the floor. But you said it before we come on here. They had that it factor.
Yeah.
They close out the game. You make it a 1-point game, and then all of a sudden, 2 players come back in and say, "All right, it's time to. It's winning time, and it's
Right.
time to get it done." As good as we were, well, kind of as good as we were, closing out a game against LR with enough free throws, just didn't have enough of those in this game. And a lot of that's just mental.
Right.
And I think to your point, what you're saying is who's going to be that player that's going to go up to the free throw line and say, I want to take the shots at the end and win it every single game.
Right. And, we talk about this all the time. A lot of kids say different things. They say it. They say it. And I don't care what it is. We deal with it sometimes with parents. We deal with it sometimes with high school coaches. They say these different things. She's a winner. She wants to win. All this other stuff. And, but at the end of the day, when you're at that free throw line, nobody is going to argue with the results that you produce. And if you step to the line and you knock them down, you're a clutch player. And if you have a history of not making those, then it is what it is. But at the end of the day, you lose the game by 10. We missed 10 free throws. Felt like we left some balls on the floor, a couple of loose balls. We didn't get down on the ground after. We had a ton of deflections. We had our number of steals. We forced them into turnovers. We got in transition. Had a lot of effort plays. But when you're playing against Wingate, instead of converting at a 90% rate, there's got to be 100. You got to get every one. You got to get every loose ball. You got to get every deflection and turn that into a steal. You got to convert around the rim. And I felt like I was so proud of their effort in coming back because they could have laid down.
Yeah.
And you cut the game to 1. And then, their 2 seniors check in, calm, cool, collected. And I felt like we got our feet right to the edge and we didn't jump. And so, that comes with experience. This, like I said, is the first year with this group. We've got to be more mentally tough, I guess is the word. Because I felt like we got there when we cut it to 1. It was like, man, we did this. Mm-hmm. We did this. And but there's still another step you got to take. And so I told Casey, Sid, Callie, because they've been here the longest. We've been on that other side. You guys know what it's like, and there's no reason why we can't take that step now. We don't have to wait till next year. Right. We can make it now.
As Wilson finishes with 18 in the game, Casey Johnson was held to a season low of 4. But again, I think that's a little bit the matchup there for her and concentrating a little bit more defensively for her. So a 1-2 week for Tusculum. However, you go into the final week of the regular season still controlling your destiny as far as a home berth. You've already locked up a playoff position in the South Atlantic Conference for the first time in some time. But it's 2 different teams.
Right.
A big win against Anderson. I know they're going to be ready to play us. And then another big win at home against Newberry.
Yeah.
They're going to be ready. They present 2 different challenges, an extremely aggressive, athletic 5 and extremely fundamentally sound 5 in Meg Essex and Newberry. So you've got these 2 challenges this week, controlling your own destiny to be at home. A lot on the line for you in the final week.
For sure. We have, like you said, a chance to do something that hadn't been done here in a long time. We have a chance to host a home game in the conference tournament, which I don't know when the last time it's happened, but it's a situation where now you're coming down the stretch and you're playing in games that matter. And it's 2 totally different matchups. You're going to Anderson, which is, my goodness, one of the toughest places to play. And then you're going to Newberry, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And you're playing, a team in Anderson that, let's be honest, we shot the lights out here when we played them the first time. They have probably the most intense post player in the league, and Alexis Dillard. They're very fundamentally sound. Coach Barbary does a great job with his team in execution. And so we have to find a way to take them out of their stuff. They're going to pound the paint, and then they have a 6-foot guard who's bigger than most post players in our league who can flat out shoot the basketball. So it's going to be tough. They always play well at their place. They always give teams a fit at their plays. They always are going to be there defensively. They defend at just a phenomenal rate. And so we're going to have to make shots. We're going to have to take advantage of 50-50 balls. We're going to have to find a way to get some extra possessions. And then going to Newberry, you're probably dealing with the most fundamentally sound big in the league, and Meg Essex. She can shoot the basketball. She can left hook you, right hook you, whatever it may be. And then they're so good offensively, just discipline, cutting, screening. I mean, they're just a huge pain to guard because not only are they fundamental in their cuts and their offense, they're also skilled at every position. So to go on the road this week, Wednesday, Saturday, we're going to need a phenomenal effort. We're going to have to make sure that we're locked in our scouting report because make no mistake, one of our goals is to host in the tournament. That's what we want to do because we feel confident that if we get that home game that we'll be able to get to Furman and then anything's possible. So not looking ahead to that, but this week is huge for us. It's a big step for our program, which has come a mighty, mighty long way. And it's a big step just for our kids moving forward because we have aspirations to be in this situation times 10 moving forward.
Two players that have put you in that position as well that have really played well here right at the end. And one of those is Lovely Locklear.
Yeah.
I know that you probably anticipated highly what she was able to bring to the table this year.
Yeah.
And when she comes from Gardner-Webb, you kind of expect that Division I mentality, just a toughness.
Right.
Saw it early,
Right.
then it kind of went away. But, man, she has really been putting forth the time here of late.
Yeah, and like you said, she's just putting in the time. Kids sometimes they get caught up in their situation. They look at other people and their situation. They compare, and anytime you start comparing, you start losing yourself. And Lovely Locklear is getting the success that she's been getting because she's been focusing on her work ethic and her habits. And I tell them all the time is that you have to make sure that your habits match your expectations. You can't expect to go and play all these minutes and score all these points and do all these things if you're not putting the time in. Your habits have to match what you expect. And so here lately, her habits have been matching her expectations. Her expectation is to play more. And her habits have been getting in the gym and getting up shots, getting better. Whether it's 8 o'clock at night with Coach Shah, whether it's the middle of the day with Coach Shah, she's been working her butt off. Therefore, she's been getting positive results. Sometimes, kids feel sorry for themselves, man, and you can't have that situation. You got to stay the course. You got to continue to work. And when you do those things, you set yourself up to be successful. And so you go into the LR game, she's in double figures, huge minutes from her. And ones, timely steals. She's getting deflections, knocking down threes. And then you saw it again yesterday. The thing with yesterday is that her stat line may not have been phenomenal, but once again, timely threes, some deflections, and then she obviously helps us on the defensive end. So really proud of Lovely. And just her growth, because it's been growth.
Yeah.
And that's very uncomfortable sometimes, but I'm proud of her for being, mature enough to, recognize, man, I got to put forth some more time. And if she continues to do that, I truly feel like she can be a player that gets us over the hump because she's athletic as can be. She can score the basketball and she can defend at a high level. And when she's locked in and focused, you know what she's capable of. We've seen that.
Yeah.
And if she continues to work, she can be one of those players that gets us over the hump.
One of those players that at the beginning of the year was in the top 5 in steals. She was also in the top 15 in scoring and in the top 10 in shooting percentage, but had that swoon where she shot 17% for about a 6-week period of time. Couldn't get on the floor, couldn't get out there. And now that she's been putting in this time over the last 2 weeks, she's shooting over 40% from the field, and her steals are up once again, putting her 6th in the South Atlantic Conference. So somebody obviously that's putting forth that time.
Yep.
Another one is a junior out of Greensboro, North Carolina, and one of the kind of the big three there from Greensboro. That's Sydney Wilson, 11th in scoring. Free throw percentage is up. Her three-point percentage is up. She's setting the record this year personally for herself in three-pointers attempted but made, and her three-point percentages are best in her career. A lot of that has to do with the fact that she's getting in the gym as well, but also she's so tough to as a defender to get around because she's so long and she can get so many deflections and steals.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney is she's a gamer, man. She's a lot of people. You look at her and she may be 125 pounds, soaking wet, but she's just a tough kid. Like, she's a tough kid. She's one of the toughest I've been around. Whether it's injuries, she plays through them, but she works her butt off. She gets in the gym. She gets up shots, and Sydney's a kid that when you challenge her, usually she's going to accept that challenge, and you don't have to do it too often because she's so tough on herself too. So, obviously yesterday in the second half, huge for us. I mean, knocking down shots all over the floor. And my deal is this: I give our players a lot of freedom on offense. You have to defend, but when you can shoot that three ball, your leash is a little bit longer than some other people's, because if you give up two, chances are you can get three back on the other end. And Sydney has improved defensively for sure. But, I try to make sure our kids have as much confidence as possible. And when I told her, when she doesn't shoot the ball when she's open, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Because we know that she can make those shots, and we count on her to make those shots. And, she has the ultimate green light. As long as you defend and you put the time in and you work, I work with you.
Right.
And Sydney's one of those kids, man. She's always getting up shots. She's a great kid. She's a great competitor. And no doubt the big turnaround that we've had this year is because of kids like Sid stepping up. Her numbers are at an all-time high. Our team is a lot better, and a lot of that has to do with her personality, and a lot of it has to do with her competitive spirit. So really proud of her, really proud of Lovely. Obviously, we're going to need both of those kids down the stretch, coming down this gauntlet, because I know that if we can get that home court advantage, they like shooting a lot better in Pioneer Arena than they do on the road.
For sure.
Yeah.
Tusculum women right now, as we go into the final week in a three-way tie for third. How will it all play out when it's said and done with? We'll find out with us this week. You can watch the games through the opposing teams' websites at Anderson and at Newberry as well. If you want to listen to the home broadcast, you can go to the TusculumPioneer.com schedule for the women's basketball team and click the live audio link, and that will be our audio this week. Obviously, you can watch it, but you can also listen to it from our perspective as well. Big week for the Tusculum Pioneers, and we hope that you're a part of it as well. For Pioneer coach Devin Carter and everybody involved with our Pioneer basketball show, Nick Pasqua, Dom Donnelly, and Jim Miller, I'm Brian Staten. Until next week, go Pioneers.